Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
Hello and welcome into the Birds of the Round Table. Guys, it is almost draft time. And on today's show, we are going to do a full first round mock draft. We're going to war game out how the first round could play out if we were the GMs for these teams. This is not going to be a predictive mock draft. It's going to be what we would do if we were sitting in the GM's chair in the war room. So you guys can chime in the comments and let us know what you think as you follow along. I'm your host, Shane Haff. Give me a follow on Twitter at Shane Haff NFL. Joined, as always, by the rest of the crew. First, we got Dibes. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mr. Crockpot. Dibes, how are you doing?
Doing well, man. Doing well.
All right. Also, give Ryan a follow on Twitter at Philly Sports PSA. Ryan, how about you, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Anytime we can do a mock draft, I'm always happy.
All right. We can't do mock drafts for very much longer because we are just about we are on the cusp of the draft. We're on the cusp of releasing our draft guide. We're just fine-tuning some things there. So we'll be rolling that out probably later this week. Also joined by David. Give him a follow on Twitter at PHL Eagle News. David, how are you doing?
Doing great. Always love these exercises because it gives everybody, including me, a better idea of where everybody has everybody ranked. I always think that's interesting because I try to avoid everything the whole off season to try to figure it out on my own. And I'm flabbergasted about how wrong I am on so many players. So I always love these exercises.
Yeah, it's always interesting. You mentioned off air right before we started that you realized looking at the draft guide how much higher you were on certain guys than the rest of us. And it's always interesting to see how that comes together. But
it doesn't make me feel good. It scares me. But yeah.
Very scary.
Well, we'll find out who's right in like 5 to 7 years. So no pressure. But all right, well, let's go ahead and dive into it. We're just going to work from top to bottom here. So I will have pick 1. Dibes will be second, Ryan third, David fourth, and we'll just keep wrapping it around as we go. So we've got Jimbo chiming in on Twitter already saying he's here for for a live show for the first time ever. Welcome in, Jimbo. Davey on YouTube asks, can I replace Dibes on these mock drafts? The GM of the teams he's picking for might like that. I don't know. And then we've got another comment on Twitter talking about trading 32 and a third to Green Bay for 23 and Malachi Starks. I don't think a third would be enough to move up that high. Also, I would not be moving up for Malachi Starks personally, but we'll see what happens in this mock draft. However, there are no trades in the mock draft. That'll make it a little too complicated. So we're going to do no trades. Ryan, what's up?
I just wanted to say for the first time ever, we've had 3 different social media platforms comment for 3 comments.
We need Facebook
We
next.
just need Facebook to be the 4th. So
yeah, if you're watching on Facebook, there's only there we go. It's coming in. I was going to say there's only one on Facebook right now.
Let's go.
And he chimed in with the "What's up, fellas?" So there you go. We've got all 4 social medias chiming in early in this mock draft. The people like mock drafts. What can I say? So, all right, let's jump into it here. We can go ahead and start the draft, Dibes, and no trades. I think the least well hidden. This is the most telegraphed pick of all time, maybe in the draft. But Cam Ward's coming off the board, number 1 to the Titans. Not just predictably, it's what I would do too. I don't love, taking Cam Ward 1 overall, but I do see the pathway for Cam Ward to be a really good NFL quarterback, and they clearly have a huge need there. So Cam Ward goes number 1 to the Titans. I think that's the slam dunk pick for them. And so that brings up the Cleveland Browns at number 2.
And that means I'm on the clock. I've got my Kevin Costner hat on. It's always, you got to watch draft day every time the NFL draft is just around the corner. But let's talk about it. Cleveland could be looking for a quarterback. They've got Kenny Pickett, who we all know is best as a backup. There's a lot of different routes they could go. They need some juice at wide receiver. They could, address the offensive line. But I'm looking to defense, and I'm going by my board, especially pairing Myles Garrett with another stud pass rusher who could take the group to a different level. A lot of the other things are depth. I mean, Travis Hunter could be fun to pair with Martin Emerson Jr. But, man, Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett, man, that just sounds amazing. So I'm going to go Abdul Carter here for the Cleveland Browns.
All right. So Abdul Carter off the board at 2 overall. Man, that would be a fun defensive line for sure. All right. That brings us to pick number 3 for the New York Giants. Ryan, you are on the clock for the Giants.
I would just like to say that I hate this, that I am the Giants. But I am glad that Abdul Carter is not going to New York. But because you passed up on Travis Hunter, I can't forgo giving up him, especially on the Giants. I am waiting till next year to get my quarterback. You have Russell and Jameis Winston, which is going to be the funniest quarterback room in history with Tommy DeVito. I'm going to wait for the quarterback. I don't really like anybody outside of Cam Ward. So I am taking Travis Hunter for the New York Giants.
All right. I do wonder, I know, Eagles fans, Abdul Carter, Penn State thing. Part of me, he's a good player, but part of me would just laugh at the Giants almost if they took Abdul Carter. It's like you have Brian Burns and Kevon Thibodeau and Dexter Lawrence. It's literally the only unit on your football team that's good. And taking another guy there, I don't know how I would feel about that. I feel like I'd want to laugh at them, but then he'd probably have 12 sacks as a rookie. So I don't know. All right, David, that puts you on the clock with the New England Patriots.
I like the chaos of the first 3 picks because I am interested to see if the Browns do skip Shedeur Sanders, how far he falls in this draft, because I don't know that, the Giants would take him. And they could take Travis Hunter or Abdul, the Cleveland Browns. So that's really interesting because he could fall into the 20s if he doesn't get selected in the top 3. I think he's one of the bigger wild cards in this draft. But for the New England Patriots, I got to give my quarterback some protection. So I'm going with Will Campbell, offensive tackle out of LSU.
All right. Will Campbell off the board. Is he playing guard or tackle for you?
I'm playing tackle. He's got 3 years of starting tackle experience in the SEC, and Drake May needs protection. So that's what I'm rolling with.
All right. Wow. Comment here from Jimbo on Twitch saying, if I'm Philly, I would be very interested by Cleveland and New York not picking quarterbacks. Make them fight for pick 32 and Milroe or Dart later. There's obviously not going to be any trade ups here, but it feels like the Eagles may be very interested in trading back if the right circumstances arise. So, okay, that puts me on the clock with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Man, the Trent Baalkeist pick would be Jalen Walker, but Trent Baalke is no longer in Jacksonville. You can't deny that's a position they would like to get some more help at, though. The pass rush, I'm not sold on Jalen Walker as a guy that I would love to be taking this high. There is an interior guy that I like, though. let's give the Jaguars Mason Graham to help anchor their interior pass rush, and they can figure out edge rusher a little bit later. So Mason Graham to the Jaguars. And that puts Dibes on the clock with the Raiders at number 6.
All right. Lots of holes to address for Las Vegas. They filled a hole at quarterback with Geno Smith. Could we go RB1? Could we go wide receiver 1? Different routes to go in this area. But I'm going for my big board, and I'm always the believer of take the superstar. And number 1 on my big board is Will Johnson, cornerback. And that's the route the Las Vegas Raiders will go in this area. A guy that can pair on the outside with Jacoby Myers. Will Johnson's just a straight stud.
All right. Will Johnson off the board to the Raiders. I've seen them locked as Ashton Genty landing spot a lot of times as well. We'll see where he ends up going in this mock. But that puts the Jets on the clock at number 7, and that's you, Ryan.
Yeah, listen, I think the Jets are in a very similar position that the Raiders are. They need help pretty much everywhere. And, I'm surprised just given what I saw briefly of David's big board that he let this guy go. The Jets need some help on the offensive line. They could use a tackle. I'm going to take Armin Membo from Missouri. You got to build in the trenches. I fully believe that. So Jets take them a tackle.
All right. That is going to put the Carolina Panthers on the clock. And David, that's you here at number 8.
All right. I mentioned them while we were not live, so I'm bringing them up again, and I'm sticking with them at number 8. I'm taking more weapons for Bryce Young, Ohio State wide receiver, Emeka Egbuka. Wow. I really just like him. I think his skills are just maybe wide receiver 1 in this draft. He's versatile. He can play inside, outside. He really sharp route runner. I'm a big fan of him. Pair him with Leggett and Jalen Coker. Is that his name over there? And I think the best way to get your quarterback going is to give him weapons, and Bryce Young could use one.
All right. So that puts the New Orleans Saints on the clock at number 9. And the Saints have been trying to push all their chips in to extend being a mediocre team for years. And they have successfully done so. They've mortgaged their future to win 8 games a year and have no playoff wins. And so here we are. And I'm not going to lie. This is a bit of a tempting Shadur Sanders spot because they're going to get out of Derek Carr's contract at some point, and they're going to need the guy, and they more than anyone needs to capitalize on rookie contracts to help get them out of this hole. And there's no more important rookie contract than a QB contract, but I also just can't quite bring myself to do it. I mean, they've got so many other holes, other places. They need offensive line. They need cornerbacks. But I'm sitting here looking at a wide receiver group that has Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, but they combined to only play 14 games last season, and there's not a lot behind them. And Tet McMillan is there on the board. So I'm going to take McMillan for the Saints, try to get them a wide receiver 1 that can hopefully be reliable. And wide receiver contracts have exploded over the last few years. And so I do think it makes sense from a contract value standpoint as well, which isn't something I'm normally super concerned about. But for the Saints, I think it's one of the most important things right now. So Tet McMillan at number 9 to the Saints. And that will put the Bears up at number 10.
Jimbo said Bryce Young did really well with Adam Thielen. Feels like Egbuka would scratch a similar itch. There it is. All right. The Chicago Bears are on the clock. A lot of different routes the Bears could go, and I feel like they're pretty happy with how the board has fallen. They could go interior or on the edge on the defensive line. They could look for a long-term solution at left tackle. as Braxton Jones is in a contract year. But again, they're very happy with how the board fell because finding a running mate with DeAndre Swift in the backfield, another disruptor there that can help out Caleb Williams and that new offense in Chicago. Give me Ashton Genty.
I love that pick. I would love that pick for the Bears. Thoughts on Genty to the Bears, guys?
Yeah, I think that's where he should go as well. And I think the slide stops right there, like Dives just pointed out. They need him. Caleb Williams' development would really, be enhanced by that. So I think that would be a really, really great pick.
Yeah. Dive, scroll back up for me. Let me recap our top 10 picks. Sorry,
which is
David.
why they'll take Kelvin Blanks Jr., but yeah.
Yeah. So through our top 10, we have Cam Ward, number 1 to the Titans. At number 2, the Browns take Abdul Carter. At number 3, the Giants selected Travis Hunter. Will Campbell came off the board to the Patriots at 4. Mason Graham to the Jags at 5. Will Johnson at 6 to the Raiders. Armand Mimbu, 7 to the Jets. Emeka Egbuka, number 8 to the Panthers. Tut McMillan, number 9 to the Saints. And Ashton Genty, number 10 to the Bears. And so that brings us to pick 11 and the San Francisco 49ers, Ryan, who is muted. Oh, Ryan didn't get his pick in time because his mic was muted.
Very good. Oh, man. You got jokes. Yeah, this is tough. San Fran could, need some help on the defensive line. They could use some help on the offensive line. Who knows? Maybe they could use even a running back with their star running back being so often injured, and perhaps even a corner. A lot of good choices here. But I'm going to go with a position that they just got rid of. And I think that they are going to secretly look at some wide receivers. I could see Luther Burden going this high for San Fran. So I am going to grab Luther Burden, wide receiver for San Fran, to kind of replace Debo, essentially. They need some offense, and this would be a great way to spark it.
All right, so Luther Burden off the board. 49ers going first-round receiver in back-to-back years. That puts the Cowboys on the clock at 12, David.
Reasonable thought would probably dictate the Cowboys would take someone like Tyler Booker to fill in for the departed Zach Martin, but I am going to go a little different and take a player who has fallen, maybe due to some character concerns. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, so I don't speak on such issues, but I am going with defensive tackle out of Mississippi, Walter Nolan, because if he does have any of those concerns, it is not going to bother the Dallas Cowboys.
He'll fit right in. All right, Walter Nolan off the board at 12 to the Cowboys, much to the heartbreak of Eagles fans everywhere. Welcome, Miss Chris. Glad you're joining in here. We are at pick 13 here for the mock draft, which is the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are in an interesting spot. What did they do with Tua's contract last year? I can't remember now. I'm trying to think of him. I think they extended him. They're kind of tied to Tua for a long time, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did.
Bad. Yeah, that's too bad. I'm going to look it up real quick. I know they did because I remember saying that was a really bad decision. 4 years, $214 million. Okay, so backup cure, replacing the QB is out. So they could go O-line, D-line, defensive back. They lost Javon Holland in free agency. They need O-line help. Let's do it. The Dolphins are gonna take Malachi Starks to be their
No.
Javon Holland replacement. So Malachi Starks off the board at 13. And I really liked Javon Holland, and I was sad the Giants went out and got him. I think he's a really good player. So in Starks, they probably think they've got a guy that they can plug in right away and make an impact. So that brings up pick number 14 here. The Indianapolis Colts are on the clock, Dibes.
All right. The Indianapolis Colts, they have a huge need at tight end, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Getting Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, a safety valve, a young tight end to groom here would make a lot of sense. You look at the current state of the tight end room in Indianapolis, not a single tight end reached 15 targets a season ago. It is a huge hole. The other route is edge. There's a couple of edge rushers on the board that are really high on my board to give Laiatu Latu, who struggled last year, a running mate to help with that pass rush. But, yeah, the Colts are running to the podium to make Tyler Warren their selection.
Yeah, just kind of like I think Ashton Genty's floor is 10. I also think that Tyler Warren's absolute floor is 14. I can't see him making it past the Colts. So that brings up the Falcons on the clock, Ryan. The Falcons have had a bit of a habit of drafting offensive skill position players in the first round and still being bad. Is that tradition going to continue?
I would say no, because they have a lot of holes on defense, both defensive line spots, corner, safety. They could use a linebacker pretty much everywhere. I am going to select, and this one hurts me, but it's the first linebacker officially off the board, Jelon Walker, taken by the Atlanta Falcons. He stays in Georgia.
All right. Are you considering him a linebacker or an edge for them?
I've never considered him an edge. It's always been a linebacker.
All right. So there you go. Walker off the board, which brings up the Arizona Cardinals at pick 16, David.
I think Arizona was like 28th in the league in pass rush win rate. So they definitely need to add an edge rusher to the mix there. I'm going to take the nation's sack leader and go with Mike Green for the Atlanta Falcons.
Nice.
All right.
The Arizona Cardinals.
Oh, you freaked me out there, David. Jesus.
Yeah, my bad.
That's who the Bengals were about to take, so they're not super happy about that. Because the Bengals have $130 million dedicated to their passing game, skill position players next year. And their defense is just broken beyond all repair because they refuse to pay defensive players. And Trey Hendrickson wants out, and their whole defense is just a disaster. They never pay anybody. They could use pass rush help. They could use cornerback help. They could really use, honestly, any defensive position that's out there. So at this point, they get sniped for Mike Green, which is the direction I was going to go. So we'll pivot and go into the secondary, and we'll take Jahdae Barron, cornerback, give him a secondary piece to try to work with, and hopefully they can hit on something because they haven't really hit on much on the defense since Cam Taylor-Britt, and even he kind of started to fizzle out a little bit down the road. So Barron comes off the board to the Bengals, and that puts the Seahawks up at pick 18.
The Seahawks could go a bunch of different routes. Offensive line is a big-time need. They could go wide receiver, cornerback, safety, defensive line. There's a really solid edge rusher sitting right there for them. So they have a bunch of options here. But ultimately, I look at the interior offensive line, and there's two guys that the Seahawks are going back and forth on. One is Gray Zabel, and the other is Tyler Booker. And I'm trying to decide. I'm going to go, again, this is my mock draft. So I'm going to go with the guy I think is rated higher, and I'm going to go Gray Zabel for the Seattle Seahawks. A guy I'm really high on, immense versatility, and I'm going to make that selection.
All right, so Gray Zabel off the board to bolster the interior for the Seahawks. That puts the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the clock. Ryan, which direction are you leaning for them?
They need quite a bit of help on the defense, pretty much everywhere but interior defensive line is in play here. And there is a couple of there's about 3 players that I'm really looking at. But I am actually going to go ahead and select my second straight linebacker. I know, shocker. Todd Campbell going to Tampa Bay. Linebacker's a huge need for Tampa Bay in this offseason. So, Todd Campbell.
Yeah, that's a really nice fit for the Buccaneers too. Like, I kind of feel like might be the floor for Campbell too. Is that pick 19? So, that puts the Broncos on the clock at 20. David.
All right. I am going to stick with a theme that has kind of run the whole evening with quarterbacks needing help. And I think Bo Nix could take his game to another level with Matthew Golden, wide receiver out of Texas. On the offense with them, he's one of the more explosive receivers. He has really made a name for himself at the combine. He really showed off his speed there, but he brings a lot more than just explosive speed. He's got really good hands, really good route runner, very reliable player, and I think the Broncos would be silly to pass him at 20.
All right.
Silly.
So Matthew Golden off the board at 20. That brings up the Pittsburgh Steelers at 21. And corner. Did you say cornerback?
Quarter.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's Shedeur Sanders. Because there is not a team that likes to take mediocre quarterbacks in the 20s in the first round more than the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, but I mean, in reality, like they have Mason Rudolph right now, and that's not where you want to be. And I'm pretty sure I saw some rumors around Aaron Rodgers. I'd rather have Mason Rudolph at this point. So, and when you have to say things like that, you need to go get the quarterback. And you know, they took a quarterback in the 20s a few years ago and Kenny Pickett in a class that people weren't very high on, and it didn't work out for him. That can't keep you from swinging the bat. The franchise needs something so they can just stop going 500 and not winning playoff games. And if you hit on the quarterback, that does it for you. A guy like Derek Harmon's also a bit really interesting here as Cam Hayward gets older, but if Shedeur's there, I think he would be a Steeler if I was making the pick. So Sanders at 21 to the Steelers, and that puts the Chargers up on the. I gotta say, when David said to continue a theme with quarterbacks, I thought he was about to take Shedeur at 20, which wouldn't have made sense with Bo Nix. But I had a mini like heart attack because I was like, he's about to snipe my pick for the second time in a row. But he did not.
I love that pick. And Shedeur just met with Pittsburgh for like 5 hours today. So that's a really great pick.
Sure did.
Yeah. All right. Well, that brings up the Los Angeles Chargers at 22, Dibes.
They could go get help on both sides of the football, man. This was an offense that was held to 17 points or fewer 7 times last year, including the playoffs. They need to add to Najee Harris and Mike Williams. On defense, they could look on the interior defensive line, off the edge. So where do we go from here? I think we're just going to play it safe and address the BPA on the defensive line. But we're going to go with the interior. Give me Kenneth Grant for the LA Chargers, and we're going to lock in that.
Whew. Green Bay was just peeing the pants right there when you said that player available on the defensive line, because I was absolutely I was focused on Ezeraku for Green Bay. They need help everywhere. They could use another wide receiver with their mediocre wide receivers. They could use Edge, they could use corner with Alexander, whether or not he's going to be on the roster. But I think ultimately they go with Donovan Ezaraku, the edge from Boston College, to kind of help bolster that defensive line and build back that defense back up.
All right. So Donovan Ezaraku off the board. That brings up the Minnesota Vikings at pick 24, David.
Is Booker still available? I can't see everybody you got there.
Yeah, he's available.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the pick. Minnesota signed a couple, average interior offensive linemen during the offseason as free agents. I think maybe both of them were from the Colts, but they need more help in the interior. So give me Booker. I think he's the best one left.
Out here, there's no one way of doing things. No unwritten rules, and no shortage of adventure. Because out here, the only requirement is having fun. Bank of America invites kids 6 to 18 to golf with us. For a limited time, sign them up for a free 1-year membership, giving them access to discounted tee times at thousands of courses. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/golf with us. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America. Restrictions apply. See BofA.com/golf with us for complete details. Copyright 2025 Bank of America Corporation.
All right. So that brings up the Houston Texans. And by the way, you guys remember how Patrick Mahomes looked in the Super Bowl, right? How bad that was?
Sure.
Patrick Mahomes' pressure rate in the Super Bowl was basically CJ Stroud's average pressure rate for the entire season. So if you wonder why CJ Stroud took a step back, watch Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. And so their response to that was also to trade their franchise left tackle, which I'm not sure made a lot of sense. And so it's offensive line or bust for the Texans. And honestly, they should probably spend their first 3 picks on offensive linemen. So they're going to take Josh Simmons from Ohio State. You could make the argument for Kelvin Banks as well. You could weigh those out. There's medical red flags for Simmons, but not a doctor. I didn't get to interview him and talk to his medical staff. So for the purposes of this simulation, I'm just going to assume he's fine and take Simmons off the board. But if I didn't clear him medically, Banks would be the pick there because they've got to go offensive line. So that brings up the Los Angeles Rams at pick 26.
The Rams don't have a lot of needs in terms of starters. They're all kind of locked in. That's not bad. I mean, they have needs at linebacker, cornerback, starting right tackle. Some of their defensive backs are a year away from free agency. Similar story at tight end. But again, I'm going to go just with the big board here. Give me James Pierce Jr., a guy with a high ceiling, great athleticism, and we're going to lock that in.
All right. Pierce Jr. off the board, rushing opposite Jared Verse. That would definitely be a fun line to watch. And that puts the Ravens on the clock at 27 overall, Ryan.
Man, you definitely just took the guy I wanted. All right. Well, Baltimore surprisingly has a decent amount of needs here. They could use a guard, but unfortunately, the only guard that really is worthy of being taken just got selected. They could use yet another safety, but again, I think it's a little early for the safety selection. They could definitely use some help throughout the defensive line. Certainly, that is something that I am super high on. In fact, I am going to do that. I'm going to select interior defensive lineman Derek Harmon.
No.
They need help on the line, and I like some of the options interior. I liked Harmon better than some of the edge. Had you only not taken James Pierce Jr., I could have left him.
Yeah, Jimbo chiming in here. He said right before Dibes picked, there's a certain defensive lineman on the board that has to have the Eagles wide-eyed, and I was going to ask if it was Pierce or Harmon.
You jinxed it.
Yeah. Miss Chris says that this mock is trash because we're not factoring in teams making boneheaded, nonsensical picks.
Sure.
That's fair, except we're not trying to predict. We're saying what we would do. So,
Right.
there'll definitely be some nonsensical. There'll be some nonsense
Always
going on,
is.
as always, especially this year, and especially as you get close to the end of the first round. I don't know what's going to happen, but Derek Harmon, love that guy. If he's got to go somewhere else, I guess he can go to the Ravens because I like to root for them out of the AFC. So that brings the Detroit Lions on the clock at pick 28, David.
Well, the Lions are watching all of the edge rushers go off the board, so they're going to maybe reach a little high to get one who can eventually start opposite Aiden Hutchinson, and they're going to go with Princely. I'm not even attempting to say his last name.
Uman Mielen.
All right, there you go. He's an instinctive player who gets off the snap really quick. He's always reading and anticipating. He's a little light, like 6'5", 255, but he's pretty violent, packs a pretty strong punch. He's got a really great spin move. He's an interesting prospect, and I think that he would pair perfectly with Hutchinson long-term over there.
All right, Princely Uman Mielen off the board at 28 to the Lions, and man, Washington really doesn't like this because Washington was eyeing pass rush help, and 3 straight guys went off the board. And so now you got to figure out where to bounce to. They traded for Laramie Tunsil, which is it's not unfortunate. It was a great trade for them, but Kelvin Banks would have been a nice pick there. They could use right guard because Sam Cosme is coming off an ACL injury.
Yep.
But he was a good player before the ACL injury. So do you really want to do that, especially when you've got so many holes on the defensive side of the ball? Man, who's their safeties? Will Harris, Quan Martin.
Who?
I don't necessarily love any of the cornerbacks here. They could use defensive back help. So I'm considering Tate Ratledge to just plug in and be the right guard. I'm really high on him. Considering Xavier Watts to help out the secondary. But also Colston Loveland is still sitting there. And they have Zach Ertz, but Zach Ertz is getting up there.
Didn't they just draft tight end last year?
They did. Did they draft? They were the Ben Sinnott landing spot,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if Ben Sinnott keeps you from taking Colston Loveland if he's there. And so, Colston Loveland, Xavier Watts. There's a much bigger drop off at tight end. We're going Colston Loveland to the Commanders. Maybe that's the first nonsense pick, but really don't like how that board fell for Washington. I think they'd probably try to trade in that situation. I guess O'Marion Hampton could have also been a potential, but definitely was going defensive line. Brian chiming in here before 3 straight guys went off the board. Those would have been the 3 guys in order I took. So Colston Loveland to the Commanders. They're going to try to outscore everybody, and that brings the Bills up.
Buffalo
So I
Bills.
sniped you again, Shane?
Yeah, more so Dibes and Ryan. I wasn't thrilled with Uman Mielen at 29, but that's probably still where I would have gone. But the next guy up for me would be JTT, and I really don't want to be taking JTT in the first round.
Yeah. Get that.
All right, Buffalo Bills are on the clock. They have a big need at cornerback. You look at Khair Elam was traded. They chose not to re-sign Russell Douglas. They've got some guy named Christian Benford as their CB2. They have a massive need there to upgrade their cornerback room. And I'm going to go with one of the highest risers during the draft process out of Kentucky, Maxwell Hairston to the Buffalo Bills, an elite athlete, outside cornerback, Maxwell Hairston.
All right, Hairston off the board to the Bills. That brings up the Kansas City Chiefs. Ryan, which punter would you like for the Chiefs?
Seriously. I want nothing but horrible things to happen to the Kansas City Chiefs as I hope their fall from grace hits every branch along the way. But since this is what I'm going to do, I guess, if I was the GM, I'm looking at their offensive line. You know, they have Juwan Taylor. On the one side, they have Jalen Moore. On the other, their interior offensive line is pretty good, but their tackles are pretty piss poor. So the fact that Calvin Banks Jr. is still sitting there, I think they would run up and grab the tackle from Texas and insert him into their starting lineup. So that is where I'm going to go. Calvin Banks from Texas.
All right. So David's going to make his pick for the Eagles here at 32, but I think we should all say what we should also all say what we would do for the Eagles. So David,
I agree.
We'll let you make the official pick here, and then we'll let everybody else. We'll let everybody else chime in. So,
right,
David, the whole fan base is about to be really happy or angry with you.
Probably angry, but to be clear, my pick is Derek Harmon. Like for 6 months, it's Derek Harmon.
Well, he's off the board,
right? So if he's not there, and the way this board fell, I would be mildly surprised if they would just do not trade out of the pick. Quite honestly. But if I have to make a pick here, I know that some of y'all, I've discussed this player, so I know this is not going to go over well with the couple on the panel. I have no idea how it will in the chat, but I am sticking with the school that has done wonders for the Philadelphia Eagles. I am selecting Michael Williams, 20-year-old edge out of Georgia. He is explosive off the snap. He's been hurt, so some of his production's been down, but for a kid his age, he has a large repertoire of pass rush moves. He sets the edge well. He gets off blocks pretty easily. He has a lot of traits. He's a player you can build around. He's a blue chip, first round type, top tier talent, in my opinion. And of the players left, I think the Eagles are lucky that he fell to them.
All right. So Michael Williams, the official pick at 32 for David.
Let me have it.
I would not be happy. I
know Shane is not a fan, but
yeah, he's in the 50s for me. But
wow,
I have him really high. I don't know how high, but like top 15.
Yeah,
he's looks also like he's 52 for me, 53 for Mark. He's 13 for Dibes, 11 for Ryan, or 11 for David, and 32 for Ryan. It looks like.
Yeah, he's a mold of clay or he's a ball of clay you can mold going forward. That would be my selection given how the board fell, assuming they can't move out of that pick.
All right. So Dives would also take Michael Williams. Ryan, given that board, where would you go for the Eagles if you couldn't trade?
Man, that's tough. But honestly, I am going to go, even though I do have another safety higher, I think Nick Emmanwori would be a great selection there. He fits kind of the mold of the high RAS. Obviously, I'm pretty sure, didn't he have a perfect RAS? Which
I think he did.
Yeah. Possible. But somebody that fits that mold of somebody that they've been trying to get a little bit more athletic. I think he would fit, and he's such a great need at this point. That's probably where I would go if I'm, being a little different than grabbing an edge.
Yeah, I wouldn't like how this board fell personally for the Eagles, but I would go. I think I would either end up going. I would consider Xavier Watts, Tate Radledge, and Benjamin Morrison basically there. Maybe Mason Taylor too. I would like all of those guys moving out of the first round for a team that wants Jackson Dart or Jalen Milroe, but those are the names that are up there for me. I think I would probably just take Tate Radledge in that position if I had to stick and pick, but any of those four names would make me okay.
As right after Ryan selected Derek Harmon, I kind of was not happy. So I pulled up my computer and did Chat GPT to see who they would select. And for the Eagles, it was Josh Connerly Jr. So that is what Chat GPT would do. About 2/3 of the fans who say that they need to draft lanes back up for the past 4 seasons. But
Yeah, I would not be happy with that.
No,
neither would I.
If you give me a guy like Tate Ratledge that plays the one position that's a hole in the line,
that's fine.
I'm okay with that. Like, you don't love to be taking a guard in the first round, but it's pick 32, and it keeps your strength to strength on your O-line. So I think that's the direction I would go. But I would consider Watts, Morrison, or Taylor as well.
Yeah, I like both Morrison and Taylor, or Watts. I'm sorry, Taylor. I don't know how I'd feel about him as a first rounder.
Yeah, I would like him. I would like all of those guys better as a top of round 2 guys. But
yeah.
Well,
So-
well, at least Dives and I know what we're doing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hey.
this was a no-brainer for me. It was Michael.
I mean,
I don't have anything to add.
yeah. I think again, again, I don't know how you guys are feeling on somebody like Nick Scorton, who I know is there. That's certainly somebody that I would consider as well over Williams.
If
I
not
do have
Michael
him
Williams-
higher than I do have Scorton higher than Williams.
Same.
If it wasn't Michael Williams, I would have went like a Landon Jackson. I would have been fine with that.
But
I
Dives,
think
you
gone
have
Aladejo.
Dives. You have,
Aladejo would have
I
been
like
nice.
Oladipo. Yes, I like Oladipo.
you have Scorton as your 10th.
Yeah, I'm in and out on him all the time.
Are you gonna have to change your rankings?
I'm not changing my rankings.
Dives
This
is
is for-
learning
this is
live on the
Eagles.
air that he doesn't actually like Nick Scorton that much.
I would say-
Yeah, gun to his head. He has to make the pick. He fails.
I mean, to be fair, I'm looking at my rankings really quick. Scoring is
Eagles
10.
rankings are
and
different.
Michael Williams is 3 spots behind Nick Scorton. So,
Where do I have Scorton? It cannot be high.
You have Scorton at 65, David.
Yeah, you are not a fan.
So, all right. Well, that is going to about wrap up this show. I'll throw it around for final thoughts and stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our full first round mock draft. We're going to be live for the first round of the draft a week from Thursday. So make sure you join us for that. But gentlemen, let's throw it around the board. Final thoughts, anything that surprised you about the mock draft, anything you've got coming out you want to plug, the floor is yours. David, you're up first, man.
I think it just shows again that how volatile the picks are going to be. You just have no idea what's going to happen. And if 1 or 2 things do not go a team's way, like what happened to the Commanders or what happened to the Eagles, like that don't really need from a whole plethora of positions, that if the well dries quick with like Walter Nolan and Derek Harmon Jr., a trade out is probably the likely move for them. So
Yeah, that Commanders pick hurt me.
yeah,
Commanders-
I mean,
Commanders
I'd have probably gone
definitely
corner.
trading out. Yeah.
I'd have probably gone corner for them, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
It didn't play
Commanders
out well for
trading
the
out
bottom
if that
feeders.
played out for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, all right, Ryan. Final thoughts. Anything you want to plug?
It's funny that when I imagine, a GM in the war room, I imagine they have, their board set, right? Just like we all do of our top guys. But when it's your turn to pick, I feel like those rankings and those things kind of go off the window, and what's in your heart really, takes precedence. So
Like when you take your 13th guy over your 10th guy?
basically, yeah. You learn that maybe you don't like somebody as much as you thought. So, and also somebody, I don't know who did, but somebody said, I said something about Gavin, Nick, Eman Worry. And, of course, the typical, we haven't drafted a safety and blah, 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 blah. And I'm so over that thought process. Like that, it just hasn't happened. That doesn't mean it won't happen. We have a new defensive coordinator who puts a high emphasis on safety and the importance of safety. So it certainly can and could happen. So don't pigeonhole yourself into that.
All right. I won't say that anymore after the Howie hasn't drafted a corner and Howie won't pay a running back thing. I'm done. Right. Saying what Howie won't do.
Yeah, that has happened. So,
all right, Dives, you are up, man. Anything you want to plug or any final thoughts?
Join us in a few minutes. We're talking top 10 defensive backs. really fun group. Some day 2 guys as well that I think are very strong. Eagles targets. Also, I think the last couple of weeks have shown that there's going to be a very real run on edge and defensive tackles in rounds 1 and 2. So I think every single pick during the draft watch party, we should be pounding the table for offensive line, wide receiver,
quarterbacks,
guys that can jump in and push some of these edge rushers and D tackles down to the birds.
All right. Well, what?
There's breaking news.
Okay.
Davey has switched sides and it's a fan of times. Oh my goodness.
I was going to say, this isn't exactly breaking news season. What's going on?
Davey has the daggers for me every show. He comes out hard.
Yeah, and my apologies, T. I read it out of the corner of my eye. I didn't see the whole thing, so I just assumed. That's my bad.
All right. I will say I saw a couple people mentioning that Howie saying there's not 32 first-round grades on his board. That's just a general principle. No team ever has 32 first-round grades on their board. So that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to trade back, although I do think that's likely. I wouldn't read into that too much. Teams just don't have that many guys with first-round grades. But there you have it, our first-round mock draft. Keep it tuned here on the network. Real quickly after this show, we're going to be going live, like Dibe said, talking about our top 10 defensive back ratings, which will complete our positional rankings. And the draft guide will come out later this week. So be sure you guys check that out as well. Be sure you're following these guys on Twitter. David is at PHL Eagle News. Ryan is at Philly Sports PSA. Dibes is at Mr. Crockpot. And I am at Shane Half NFL. And we'll catch you guys next time. Go Birds.